up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football. Welcome back to the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy C.J. Vogel, and our own coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coach there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. Now you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our own coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Enjoying this beautiful West Texas weather, baby.
Yes, nice here in ATX too. I ain't gonna lie, it turned out to be a perfect day. A little cold front came in over the weekend, and then everything settled. And now I think it's like 60 something outside.
We were 35 last night.
Yeah, it got to like 40 something, and then now, man, it's pretty good. Sun's shining. So hope you are enjoying a beautiful day, no matter where you are. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you, CB. No matter where you are joining us from Longhorn Country, we appreciate it. Got a lot of things we'll get into on the show. Of course, Mondays, we're always pleased to be joined by my man Stevie Lee. Lifetime Longhorn Stevie Lee's going to join us a little bit later on in the show, early on. But we'll talk about a variety of different things. Of course, spring football is happening, so a lot of spring football conversation about the Longhorns. CJ's got a couple of recruiting nuggets we can dive into. I know a lot of Texas men's basketball fans are excited about what Sean Miller's doing already, so we can throw that into the conversation as well. But Michael Taft getting some love because the folks over at Pro Football Focus are doing their top players, their top 10 returning players at every position. They're doing the safeties right now, and my man Michael Taft getting some love, so we'll give him a shout out and have that discussion about where he's ranked among the best safeties in the country. Also, the news from that Matthew Golden will be attending the NFL draft in Green Bay. We'll talk about that. I saw an interesting interview Jake Majors did. I believe it was with the Draft Network. I want to get you guys' thoughts about a couple of things that he said. There's also draft over-unders in terms of where players will be drafted. We'll discuss where the Longhorns are projected to be drafted in those over-unders. There's a heated Ohio State quarterback battle going on. Longhorns are going to face them to start out the 2025 season. So we'll talk about who the starting quarterback may be for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So a variety of different things to get into. But, of course, you drive the show any direction you want to. You can throw out any questions, comments. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line, and you can interrupt the show at any time in that manner. So please throw them out there. All right, guys, just we'll get into, of course, the discussion about some of the topics I just brought up. We'll get to Stevie Lee here in just a second. And actually, this will probably open up the discussion to Stevie a little bit. But I was talking to a friend of mine about NIL, and they asked me a question that I hadn't pondered it, but I thought it was an interesting conversation for us to have. What position right now on the roster do you think, other than quarterback, let's put quarterback to the side. Quarterback's a little too easy for these conversations. So we found out. Has the most NIL investment?
Ooh. There's one that's, I think, comes to mind pretty quickly, and that's the edge room.
Is it?
I think it's the edge room. And look, per player, it's the edge room.
Yeah, that's kind of on like a per player basis, kind of
offensive line. You're going to see all the money there.
Yeah. Because
I look at that edge room. Colin Simmons, with how valuable he's been for this staff, for Texas to go out and get a Trey Moore out of the portal over in Alabama and Ohio State, right? That was a big win there. But I start looking at some of these really talented early enrollees. A lot of investment there, and I would have to imagine that because it is such a premium position, as we've talked about, Rod, because it has such an impact and can create such negative plays immediately, you got to make sure that you're well suited there. And I think Texas has done a very fine job of accumulating that talent, but also making sure that talent retains and remains on roster.
Yep, that's a good one. Coach, you agree or disagree with that one?
Yeah, I agree with it, but I think follow closely behind, and I'm kind of thinking receivers, probably a little more than DBs, but, you can play 4 as much as 5 receivers at one time. And, we've got some great talent there. So I would think the receiver room would be up there in the top 2 or 3, excluding quarterbacks, probably the top 2, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think Michael Taft is a guy pounding his fist on coach's desk saying, I need more money.
No. I wrote down DN or wide receiver, so I'm kind of with you, Coach. I went DN or wide receiver. Cornerback probably could, maybe a little bit down the line, but DBs as a whole maybe a little bit more complex in terms of how they value those guys. I was hearing, because we were talking about the Sark interview where Sark said, "Hey, we give every position a value, every player at every position we assign them a value," and that's pretty much how they deal with NIL and those negotiations and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking to myself, man, I wonder, because NFL, we know what the salary cap looks like. We know what every position is valued at because of the franchise tag and all that kind of stuff. You don't have those particulars and those details in college. So I was just thinking about it. But I agree. I think you're right about the edge, and I think that's deliberate. There's no doubt. They're investing in the edge room as well. They should. And we just watched the Super Bowl. And the lesson learned, Coach, was Patrick Mahomes. He might be, the next GOAT, but not even the GOAT. Tom Brady too can escape real pressure when it's coming.
That's right. Yeah. CJ, I got a question for you. Do you think in the future we're going to see a salary cap?
Well, that's a great question, Coach, because I was watching some of the House settlement earlier today, and
yeah,
let me tell you, I am not fluent in law, nor am I fluent in lawyer speak. So watching that, a lot of that just went right over my head with some of the verbatim that was used by these guys on the House settlement. But it is interesting hearing what their arguments are in the sense of why there should be some sort of settlement, share the revenue sharing throughout college sports. Do scholarships need to change? Do limits need to change, et cetera? So yeah, I do think schools are preparing, or at least have a plan in place for revenue sharing should it be implemented immediately this year. And of course, there is that timeline in place of whether it be September 1st, August 1st, or whatnot. Of course, it needs to be passed by the House settlement. So we'll see. But yeah, I probably killed 2 hours today, Coach, trying to sit there and listen and then read some of the chat to see if I'm missing everything. But now it's interesting. But I do think eventually, because of the House revenue share bill, whatever it is, you will see a cap on money spent per program or per conference, essentially.
Yeah, and not every program will be able to keep up with whatever that cap's going to be. I kind of agree with you on that too.
Arrow Kids, that's exactly what I needed. I needed someone to sit there and just have the AI have like a running what's it called? The Spark Notes version. I needed an AI Spark Notes version of everything that went down, because
is Spark Notes the modern version of Cliff Notes? Is that what that is?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
I really do believe that if that does come to pass, it will hurt the University of Texas, because they're doing it to allow, the other programs that don't have the income potential that we do to stay up with us and make the playing field a little bit more even. Because right now, we all know, the University of Texas has the largest living group of alumni in the country. And so a lot of them are very successful. And so I wouldn't say it's unlimited resources, of course, but the more we win, the more people want to get involved and put their money in the program to be able to stick their chest out and say, I had something to do with this, but in all fairness, I do believe there needs to be some type of cap, although I do think it will hurt the University of Texas, because there are a lot of deep-pocketed Longhorns out there that really want to see, this team win it all.
You still can through NIL, because NIL is still going to be, also its own separate deal. Well, now I'm sure they'll have some parameters maybe they'll put on it, but you'll still have NIL. So, Coach, that even though you're right, it'll limit Texas in the amount they can spend resources. You'll have on the side NIL, which I don't know how much it'll be limited right now. There is no limit on NIL. And so you could, maybe that's the way for Texas to still gain that advantage is through NIL, because that's still also going to be a huge, I don't know, a point of contention. At one point, they'll have to try to regulate that at one point after they get the House settlement stuff done. So yeah, it's there's a lot to the landscape of college sports is about to change drastically in like the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And nobody has any idea how it's gonna look. That's the crazy thing. We have no idea how it's gonna. I was talking to Chris Plonsky about it, and just like us, Texas is preparing for it, but Texas is basically preparing for all scenarios that could possibly, occur. Which they can. All right, let's bring on our man Stevie Lee before we continue the conversation, and then we'll get into your questions. Of course, please throw those out there as well. Let's bring on lifetime Longhorn, my former teammate, and your favorite. Yeah, there you go. Your favorite cameo guest host on the show. Oh man, Stevie Lee joining us, courtesy of our friends over at Hartgrove Roofing. Hartgrove Roofing, that's right. HartgroveRoofing.com. Give them a call 512-645-3202. Know who's on your roof, and right now offering a free roof inspection with offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Of course, you can reach out to them. Don't go up there and try to DIY that thing. All right, leave it to professionals, the folks over at HartgroveRoofing.com. Stevie, how you doing, brother? How was your weekend?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Doing good, man.
This weather that we were talking about.
Yeah,
beautiful out here.
It is beautiful out here, man. I'm stuck behind this computer screen, man.
That's right. That's why we appreciate Steve, because he does interrupt his work day to actually come hang out here with us. Well, we were just talking about a couple of things, actually. I don't know how much you've been keeping up with it, but looks like there are right now there are decisions being made about the House settlement, which will be revenue sharing for all of the athletes there in major college sports. What are your thoughts? Do you have any general thoughts about the House settlement in terms of
besides the fact you were born like 20 years too late?
All of us, yeah,
too early, yeah. Dude, I say that
early.
all the time, man. I wish, nowadays, 6'5", 288 pounds is what I came in at.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have got at least $500,000, man. Come on,
prime money.
I'm looking at these guys now. It's like, damn it, man. Can we get some back pay?
They are going to get back pay. It's just I think we're too old for it. But we're
still too old. Yeah, we aged out, bro.
Yeah, I forgot when it goes back to, though. I don't know. Maybe it's like 2014 or something. There will be basically back pay.
Yeah.
For all of those student athletes who missed out, and we're those who got missed out and got shafted, so it don't matter.
Yeah, it's all right, man. I'm having a good time right now with my life right now. It's a bit better.
Did you get some of that college football EA Sports money? You ain't getting none of that money?
Hell no.
Oh man, come on, man. I thought you were supposed to get some of that money, Stevie.
We should have, man, because when the game came out, there were our numbers was on the like our likeness was used.
I could have
21.
Yeah,
I could have swore, because you didn't leave. When was your
I finished in 2004-2005 season, the Michigan Rose Bowl.
I thought the 04 guys got some of that money.
Well, I need to check my mailbox.
I gotta go check. I was telling you, man, I could have swore, because I thought I just missed out on it because I was upset, because when I lost, like, oh man, I'm not gonna get any of that EA Sports NIL money that that they got. So I don't know, Stevie. I'll check for you. I didn't look for you, man. But
okay, let's do that, man. Hit me up, please. Hey, man, I got a daughter going to college, so I need everything I need.
We're gonna blame Texas for that, man. They should have reached out to you. No
question. To answer your question is I don't know a lot about it. I'm with you, CJ, man. This shit is going over my head. So it's but what I do think is what you said, Rob, about the NIL is still going to be there. So they can have parity all they want to, but we do have the deep pockets, like Bob was saying, and we can have a salary cap on what the school can give them, but me as a business owner, I can give them whatever I want to make an appearance for me.
Exactly.
I'm not, but I could.
No, but that's what's going to help, because the revenue sharing, the way it breaks down, because Title IX, I believe, is not going to apply to the House settlement. That's also something totally separate that they're going to have to figure out as well. So that's why that's why NIL is important for those sports that won't get a big chunk of the revenue pie from house settlement. You know, the student athletes can make up for it on the end by getting some of that NIL money from local businesses, regional businesses, national businesses, that kind of thing. I'm telling you, man, this thing is really convoluted. Like that's why you need a commissioner of college football to sort this out. This is crazy. Like you're gonna have all these moving parts. It's insane.
And I think they may be going towards that, man, because now all these programs have GMs. So, you know, I was talking to an insider, and one of the players was like, you know, right after the season, the first meeting he scheduled was with the GM. It's like, hey, listen, this is what's happening, and what are y'all gonna do? You know, it's a new day in college football right now, man.
Yeah, I know a couple of the college basketball coaches were saying, hey, we got guys on the roster that are preparing and going through practices currently for the NCAA tournament while sitting back saying, oh, wait, I don't know if you're going to be on my team in the next month, right? Yeah. You're probably looking around at the market created for you because of your position or your production, saying I can get a lot more money elsewhere, but I need you on my team for Saturday when we got a Sweet 16 or round of 32 game, et cetera. It's going to be interesting again, because I know the topic of roster limitations or an increase in roster was brought up today. And, you know, we've heard the 105 number thrown out. I talked to a college coach the other day who was just saying, yeah, you know, I have no business to ever look for another walk-on again, because we know eventually that there's going to be an increase in scholarship. And, you know, I'm sitting here saying, no Michael Taft's story, right? You don't hear about the Jet Bushes. Those guys that had pretty crazy stories, but also produced a pretty good amount here at Texas, probably no longer going to be the case when or if this is passed. So I think it's unfortunate, but it does also increase the level of scholarships that you'll have on your roster to go out and recruit big-time guys. Stevie, for a guy who, you know, has seen this story time and time again of guys who've earned their way onto the roster, Texas has a third-string tight end right now, Ridge Barker, who was a walk-on, who might end up being a player should this tight end room remain thin. But, Stevie, I'll ask you this. For the overall scholarship count, does that matter within the room, or is it just, hey, you know, I know who we got to roll with for practice each day. Whether you're on scholarship or not, we got to make sure that these guys are all working towards the same collective goal. Is that ever even brought up at all in the locker room?
No, not really. But I think to answer the walk-on question, I think, and I hate to say this, is the spirit of college football. I mean, I still love college football. I will watch that over anything. That's my number one. But the spirit of college football is dying. You know, so the spirit of a walk-on actually coming on and making his way, like Ungar, who I played with.
Man,
like you know, the whole story of the 12th man over at that other school over east. So and so that stuff is dying for me. You know, that's not going to be around like those big. Rudy JDH. So that stuff is dying, but college football is still on top. So I don't know. I don't think that we're going to have those Cinderella stories like that anymore because everybody's on scholarship.
Yeah. And also John, thank you, John. He says the back pay goes back to like the reparations goes back to 2016, like in terms of
I was already a father of two then.
Now, but I'm talking about the EA Sports stuff is different. I'm telling you, the EA Sports stuff is different. I don't know.
Okay,
you might have a little bread out there somewhere. All right.
Instead of it's in the game, it's in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the game. Yeah, no doubt. That's a good point about the spirit though of college football. The ratings may not be affected because the popularity is still there, and it's still a very healthy game, no doubt about that. And we're watching, really competitive college football year after year. But the initial spirit of it, and that's because amateurism, they abused it. They abused amateurism. And so now I think ultimately NIL, the free market, that's basically what NIL kind of represents. The transfer portal represents player empowerment, right? Hey, you know what? I don't like that. I can go do my own thing. All of those are things that are making up for that abuse, all right, of amateurism by the establishment for so long. But you're right. It's really the perfect storm of all of those circumstances. I think you're right. It's killing the spirit of it. And I don't know if there's any way to revive it or resuscitate it. Not at the highest levels, the lower levels. You still see it. I think you can still see it at the lower levels of college football, but not at the highest levels anymore. No, those days are done.
Yeah.
That's why spring football. Spring football kind of represents that, right? It's like, the hell with spring football. Free football? Hell no. You ain't getting no free football around here. No, you're going to pay for this football. This is big time football. It's like NFL.
Yeah.
Well, you know, free football. You got to pay for this football. That's kind of what it is.
That's an example. Yeah, you're exactly right, man. But I also get it. These kids are on the field for a long time, from August all the way into mid-January. So that's a long time to be playing the season.
Yeah. No. Trust me. I ain't mad. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Not mad, just jealous.
Yep.
Steven, I got to ask you a Texas football question before we let you out of here, because I know you got work to do. Here's my Texas football question for you. What, in your opinion, right now on the 40 acres, what's the best position group on the 40 acres right now, roster-wise?
Oh, damn it.
The best position.
Oh, that's a great question, man. I was at practice last weekend.
Yeah, you've been watching it.
Damn it, that's a good question. I couldn't keep my eyes off of Manning though. So
still quarterback to you then. Even at the Quinn, it was quarterback. You could argue it was quarterback last year. I mean,
yeah.
It's Manning behind Quinn. That's two NFL QBs. Hell, Trey Owens is still legit. You can make that argument.
I'll tell you what I did like, and I'll tell you what I did like, and from the quarterback from Manning is his long ball is beautiful.
Ooh, turn that up.
Yes,
it is so pretty. And it's like that he has a flick on his wrist, that the touch that arches the ball perfectly into your bread basket, like right over your head into your bread basket. Like it was pretty. I was looking around like this is gonna be fun. This is so fun. So now, in the same breath, your boy, whenever I go to practice, I gotta go down there and watch my D linemen.
Of course.
They're big.
We don't have any huge names right now, but they're gonna be huge household names coming up, man. These dudes are big, fast, and strong. And Torrey, this offseason and during the summer, has nothing but time with them, and they're gonna get even better, man. They look good. They look really good.
If I get a question on that, Stevie, I mean, a lot of these guys, you look at Cole Brevard, 6'4", 335, Travis Shaw, 6'5", 325, like big boys. Having seen what Texas deployed out last year, was there a noticeable difference? Did it look about the same? Because Alfred Collins, 6'6", about 330. Vernon Broughton, another guy that was about 310. It felt like there's been a continual theme of just big bodies on that defensive line.
And that's why I went down to look at them. They all look big, and I wanted to see how their feet move. They're right there with it, man. It's reloading, and I didn't know much about our coach. I forget his name.
Kenny Baker. Which one? Kenny Baker.
Yeah, he was in him, man. I like the way he coached, dude. He was all in him, So, but the other coach, as I was about to leave, and I was walking with my daughter off the field, here comes out of the corner of my eye somebody sprinting at me. You know who it was?
Coach Aquino.
Coach Aquino. I'm like, Coach, man, you're 68 years old out here just sprinting over here. Hey, Stevie. Hey, man, how you doing, man? Hey, man. Hey, yeah, man. I said, Coach, where y'all living at? He's like, man, we kept our house here. We just had somebody lease it out. They're going to move out. We're going to move right there in it. Dude, man, and the energy was on 10. I was like, hey, Coach, calm down.
Yeah, don't have a heart attack, Coach. I don't.
Yeah, man. But the energy is there. I think we know him, Rod. Like you and I, we know him and everything. But
man.
And then Coach Bob, did you know him? Was he on staff?
Yeah, I worked with him.
Yeah, exactly. So we know him, but these kids don't. I think they're getting acclimated to him, man. And so the energy was on 10 when I was out there with him, man. So.
I knew as soon as you said he started sprinting, I was like, that's
I introduced him to my wife, my daughter, and he was, wanted to know about her and things like that. Man, he's just a good dude. And he cares about the kids, y'all. Like it's
right. Yeah,
that's the big thing about him. He cares.
He can. That's a great way to end it right there. You damn right he does. Thank you, Stevie. Appreciate all the insight. Always fun talking to you on a Monday. And sorry to keep you from work so long, man. We appreciate it.
No, man, y'all can ask me any questions. I do not want to go back to work.
All right, thanks, Stevie. Tell wifey I said what's up. All right, brother.
Will do. See you guys.
See you.
Thanks, Stevie.
Lifetime Longhorn and my former teammate Stevie Lee. Know who's on, courtesy of Hardgrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof. HardgroveRoofing.com. Right now, we're offering a free roof inspection. Reach out to them right now. 512-645-3202. If you have any concerns or you have any issues with your roof, don't DIY that thing. Do it. Leave it to professionals. Our professionals over at HardgroveRoofing.com. Offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. That was great. I love that, Stevie Lee. All right, so that's why Stevie Lee always drops little nuggets on us, when he comes in. So he went to practice and saw that the deep ball looking good with Arch. And we heard in the interview that Sark did with Colt McCoy when he was talking about Arch, one of the first things he brought up was Arch's deep ball. That I almost feel like these are little teasers for the season, that the deep ball is coming back to the offense. And coming back, honestly, I don't know if they ever really had the deep ball. I don't know, because first year Casey Thompson, I got to go back and look at it. I'm not going to disrespect Casey and Hudson Card. So maybe the deep ball was decent then. I'm not really sure. But under Quinn, of course, remember the deep ball was not something coach they could execute really well, and that's fine. I mean, it just wasn't one of the strengths for Quinn. Even though you had a lot of speed to try to maximize that deep ball, Texas really wasn't in sync in it. And now it seems like they have a quarterback that may be one of his natural strengths is the deep ball. And coach, I think it could be a different looking offense actually than the Sark offense that we've been used to seeing with now a new added element, being not only throwing the deep ball a lot, but being good at it actually.
Yeah. It's kind of like the passing version of adding a running quarterback. It's something else that you have to try to maintain or contain, I guess you might say, defensively. But now you've got a 2-for-1 with Arch. You've got a guy who can beat you with his feet, but we also have a guy who can beat you over the top with a nicely thrown ball where only his receiver can get it. So there's I think really good reason for a lot of us to be excited about that deep ball this season, as well as the legs of Manning, although we won't see him much, but we'll see him when we have to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Coach, looking back, I mean, that deep ball, for whatever the reason, it always just felt like when it was completed, it was like, oh, whoa, what did we just see? Almost like the reaction you get from like a trick play working. And
yeah, and it was almost like a jump ball. It was like the receivers had to kind of slow down or adjust to it, or it just never was that smooth and clean sometimes back when we had Vince and Colt, and it just, they would hit the receivers in stride.
Yeah.
And it just seems like we've been inconsistent in doing that. And wow, won't it be fun to get that back as a consistent part of our offense? I think it's going to make it really tough on defensive coordinators to defend us.
Yeah, 100%. Rod, I'm going through a pretty deep rabbit hole right now. I'm going through every single third down play, charting it.
Ooh, nice.
We'll see what we can come up with, right? It's going to take me a little while. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have something. But as I'm watching these plays, I'm probably in about week 7 right now. So I just went through the Georgia game, just went through Arch's time against UTSA and earlier in the season. But I'm sitting there watching a couple throws, right? You see the in-breaking route throws from Quinn, and he is hitting guys in stride. That's actually one of the things that he is really, really good at, is making sure that ball gets to where it needs to be, 15-ish yards in stride on in-breaking routes. Arch, very much the same. But then you see the difference when Arch was on the field on the vertical balls. And, Coach, I took note of that because You know, we talk about the throw to Jonte that was dropped. We talk about the throw to DeAndre Moore right before halftime that was caught for the touchdown to go up by 8 before half. And all of those deep vertical shots were in stride, right where they needed to be, right in the breadbasket, as you would call it. And that was something that, having watched probably 200 other pass attempts today, it wasn't always as prevalent with Quinn. So I'm with you. The in and out, you know, you tell basically, you know, the NFL Pro Bowl combine, or, you know, the skills challenge for the quarterbacks where they got the golf cart driving by with the little the hoop, and they say, okay, you hit that one, you get 5 points or whatever. Quinn could hit that pretty easily. It was always the one that you'd go down the field and into the hoop or whatever at the end of the field, saying, okay, that's not going to end up where it needs to be. And it so far for Arch, it will.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I love what Stevie brought up. Just observing the no pun intended, the arc on the football. He was kind of describing the way you know, Russell Wilson sometimes will throw it, almost that moon ball. They'll drop right there in the breadbasket. I think some guys just have a natural knack for it. The anticipatory ability, I should say, to get it out to a guy on the move. And you're right. That's why the offense was built around yak yardage with Quinn.
Yeah.
It was a yak offense because Quinn, if he would hit a guy right in stride. Those swing routes to the running backs, those glance routes, you know, you're talking about those 15-yard in cuts. I mean, he was money on those. When you get down the field, then the inaccuracy, the inconsistent footwork, he was unsettled at times with the mechanics, and I think that's what got him in trouble. And I think that's what it's kind of, you know, has dropped his draft stock, of course.
Hey, Ron, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
So a receiver that's running a deep ball, and you have a quarterback like Manning who can put a lot of air under it and put it out there in front of you. How hard is it as a DB? Because you can't get ahead of the receiver. You've got to stay behind him. But for that guy to be able to track the ball and he slows down, so what do you have to do? You have to slow down. You know what I'm saying? And so he can create a little bit separation by slowing down a little bit as he's tracking the ball. And then at the last minute, have a little burst to get it. If the quarterback, as CJ was saying, can put enough arch on it, you know, to get you deep. If a receiver is really good at anticipating where that ball is going to be and tracking it, he can kind of slow down a little bit and get you to slow down and then speed up at the last minute so that it's not really a jump ball. He can create that separation because you don't have the luxury of looking back like him. You've got to watch his eyes. You've got to see him. And if you turn around and look when he looks, then he can really mess with you.
Coach, Coach, that's such a coaching observation or critique, because you're right. Remember, when you're describing it, you know what game I'm thinking of? I'm seeing Arizona State, and remember Scatterboo and the deep ball that he caught on Taft? It wasn't that he was open. Go watch how he changes his speed when he's tracking the football. And then he slows down and he speeds up again. And then Taft kind of just lost track of him, because he assumed that, he assumed he was going to be at the same speed the entire time. And when he stopped, he assumed, he's stopping to make a play on the football. And so you're right, Coach. That's why I never played the football, because I wasn't great at tracking it. Some guys are great at tracking the football. And when the ball is thrown, they don't even have to worry about what Coach is describing, because they become a receiver. Yeah. Nathan Vasher was a receiver. Ball was thrown, he sees it. The receiver no longer matters. The receiver might turn into the DB at that point, because he's starting to track it. And he's a natural. He tracks it really good, and he's going all through the football. And I think there are certain guys who have that ability to track footballs really well. Usually they end up playing offense. Usually a coach like Bob Shipley moves on the offense at one point and goes, "Nah, you track the football way too damn well. Get over here. You need to Travis Hunter's that guy." And then you end up with guys like Rod B, who can't track the football, just can run really well, and then you see how that works out. So I think ultimately it's just rare to have a DB that tracks the football. Earl Thomas was great at that. Earl Thomas, man, when he got an angle on the football and tracked it, he there was no longer, for him as a safety, he was no longer worried about the offensive player. Like, he was going to the football. Like I said, I didn't have that ability. So, Coach, I would stay strict on, and I needed contact with the receiver. That helped me too. Contact and eyes on the receiver. So I had contact with him and eyes. So if he did say he fooled my eyes, he can't run away from me. So at least I would have some contact with him to know, oh, he's trying to run away from me. If my eyes got fooled trying to track the football, or if I'm watching him and he stops and I turn, let's say I turn the wrong way looking for the football, I still need to have at least some part of my body in front of him. So he's got to run through me to go there. You got to run. So it is tricky, coach. You're right. Every DB's got to play it differently. You can't. Every DB is different. I wasn't Nathan Bash. I couldn't play the ball like that.
Yeah.
So
the ball tracking comment's really interesting because it does make a difference, and we saw it. Obviously, Andrew Makuba had a beat on a ball anytime it was up in the air. Jade very much the same a year ago. I think Taff has some of that in him. I also think Taff's hustle puts him in great positions to be around the ball for tips, overthrows, whatnot. But the guy that I couldn't help but just think of immediately when it came to ball tracking, Jonah Williams, when he gets over to campus.
Oh, I like that.
Guy that's played center field at pretty high level travel baseball. Hey, I'm all for it. And I know his big comp, loosely or, I guess firmly is Kyle Hamilton, right? And that's a very lofty comparison. But the one thing Kyle Hamilton was able to do is go sideline to sideline, making plays on the ball. That size, that speed, I think Jonah Williams, by the end of his career, could be a kid that certainly is in that conversation with like an Earl Thomas in the sense of going after balls in the air.
I love that.
Here for a safety to make that play, track that ball, because he's running towards a receiver and he knows, he can look back as he's running full speed. And if he's seen this ball thrown enough times, he knows where it's going to go. So it's much more advantageous, but it is almost a death sentence for a cornerback. I mean, it is the most pressure in the passing game is on a cornerback trying to cover a deep route because you don't have an angle because you're trailing. Or you're running right beside him, as Rod said, with your hand on his hips or shoulders or something, so that you can track him. But the safety, a center fielder that can take one glance up at that ball in the air and know where it's going to land.
Yeah, that's a skill.
Yeah, that's a gift.
That's a skill.
That's a skill.
Yeah.
That I mean, it can be improved on, but I think it's almost innate. Just like that center fielder. In baseball, he looks at the wall, he's looking at the ball, he's looking at the wall. His mind is constantly calculating, the path of that ball and where it's going to wind up going. And the safety is, most of them will tell you, I would love to have played safety because I wouldn't have been any good. Well, take out the speed. But I felt like I was pretty good at tracking the ball.
Yeah.
But it's almost, there's very few, as you said, maybe Nathan Basher, that can actually track it while you're chasing a receiver down the field.
Yeah.
Because then they have those over the shoulder stop routes where a receiver will look back and then all of a sudden he'll turn to the outside and the ball's in there, and there's nothing as a DB you can do about it. It's uncoverable if you have a receiver and a quarterback that are on the same page.
Yep, and honestly, that's a perfect route as a counter in Sark's offense because he had so much speed on the outside with those wide receivers. And if you just get a one-on-one, everybody has to respect the speed in that offense. I mean, think about this. We're talking about Texas, not being very proficient in the deep ball. And yet you've had the fastest wide receiving core in college football the last 2 years.
Yeah. And look,
and you top 10 explosive plays too, by the way, top 10. And that's without the deep ball. Like this offense has a potentially really explosive is my point, TJ. Yeah.
Rod, I kind of had this conversation on OTF earlier today. The zip on a pass like from Manning, we know it's noticeably different than that of Quinn, who kind of feathers, kind of just finesses a ball to where it needs to go. That is perfect for seam routes. That is perfect for back shoulders because I don't think in the 3 years that Quinn was the guy at Texas, you probably count on two hands how many true legit back shoulder throws we saw. And it might even be one hand, right? It wasn't many. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm thinking about the guys that Texas has recruited, the guys that Texas has on roster right now, what's one of the big overwhelming traits among all of them is body control and hands, right? Speed, it's kind of I don't want to say disappeared with this group, but it certainly isn't at the forefront of the traits that we see when they run routes. So Matthew Golden, I think, would have been one of the best back shoulders, fade ball guys that Texas would have had. You just didn't see much of it because it wasn't a strength of Quinn.
I think I told you this guy's story. I think it was 2008. We were playing Arkansas at DKR, and Jordan was running a go route up the east sideline going towards the south end zone. And Colt threw it, and Jordan was covered like a blanket. But at the last minute, he turned outside and caught the ball. And you remember this? And I asked him, how did you know? What do you call that play? Because I want to run that play in high school. What do you call that? You call it back shoulder? He goes, no, we don't call it anything. We call it a fade. How did you know? And he said, I could tell by the pitch of his shoulders. If his shoulders were up, he was going to throw it up and over. If they were down, I knew he was going to throw a rope to the outside. And it's just an incredible advantage that the offense has over a DB. When you're that well versed in your quarterback and receiver relationship, that you can tell by the angle of his shoulders when he throws it, whether he's throwing it deep or whether he's throwing a rope outside shoulder. And that's amazing. I'm telling you, as a DB coach, that would make me pull all my hair out.
Yeah, because you had a tough job.
Coach is right though. You got no shot, man. I mean, that's going off hundreds of thousands of reps. Especially Colt and Jordan, thousands of reps over years. And he said, "No, I just know how he look. I know his body language when he's about to throw it on a rope. Oh, he's about to put air on it like that. How am I going to cover that? There's no way to defend that. There's no way to defend that. All right. Good stuff there, guys. I see the questions here. We'll get to those in just a second. Let's thank our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery before we move on. Did you know the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right, folks. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. And Super Texan is fantastic, folks. My wife loves it, and her mom loves it. And my mom, we actually enjoyed it over the holidays. I think we actually have some Super Texan in the kitchen right now, or maybe we don't because it doesn't stay long. It's just that good. It's now available at your local specs, so give it a try. They also have a display of Flat Creek Estate wine actually at our local Central Market here in Austin. So the good word is getting out about their great wines over there at Flat Creek Estate Winery. Flat Creek also is a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That is Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. Go check them out for yourself. All right, let's get to some questions. How about this super chat? UT Tyler Guy. Thank you, UT Tyler Guy. We appreciate it. Says, not see how much this applies, but do y'all think Sark will be more efficient using helmet comms this year compared to last year? Love you guys. Thank you, UT Tyler. Love you too, brother. Appreciate that. All right. Yeah. Helmet comms. Did it help this year? Did it help?
Could have, and we won't know because we won't ever hear what they were saying in the headset. But Sark was interesting, and we heard from Quinn. We heard from some of the guys on the offensive side of the ball saying, "Look, offensive line, everything that they're signaled in, or everything that they need to know for a play, will be signaled in from the sideline." Right? Quinn will walk up. He'll see whatever cards held up, whatever numbers being shown, whatever the color is, whatever the signal is for that week. Right? He'll immediately walk in and tell those guys what is needed. That comes from the sideline. Then the end of the play call comes from either one of the signalers or it comes in from the headset. And I think there was a few instances where Sark said, we like to go fast. We're going to hold up the cards. We're going to make sure that everybody sees from one central spot rather than one guy on the field disseminating everything out to the rest of the team. That takes a little bit longer. See that on defensive sides all the time because you see guys huddle up as opposing offenses, and then it's Anthony Hill or whoever coming in and relaying signals out. But I'd certainly look at it and say, with Arch, if you want to go fast, and I think Texas is going to be suited to go pretty fast this year, I'd like to see it all come from the sideline again. Make sure everybody is on the same page. They see the same signal. They see the same board, and there's no miscommunication. You don't need to switch guys from one sideline to the other. Then you can stay in your sideline and basically just keep going.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really judge how much of an impact it had because we just don't know how much was said, right? Sark, again, he would tell us, play shuts off at 15 seconds on the clock, and he would say, all right, make sure I read this guy, that guy. We all theorize that's the case, but when you're in the heat of the moment and you're Sarkisian trying to call the plays, it's probably pretty tough to sit there and say, oh, don't forget to look at the jack linebacker. If he's, outside the line or whatever, he starts probably on the next down saying, okay, if this works, we got to go with this. Or if it doesn't, all while communicating with up in the booth and whatnot. I think it might have been a little overblown last year with how much of an impact it truly would have had. Seeing that this offense still scored a lot of points and looked pretty similar, I can't imagine that it was a complete game changer for everybody.
On the sidelines from the TV, from watching on TV, it didn't look like Sark was doing any coaching after he called the play. He would a lot of times hold, the play sheet over his face or something, and call a play. Yeah. But it didn't look like he was saying, okay, now watch the field side corner or watch the the George side safety or whatever. Because I think he has his quarterback so well prepared. They already know that. It would just be redundant and repetition to tell him that. I've never seen any sign to indicate that Sark is doing more coaching than he is just calling the play. I mean, he could at the last minute, when he says, split pro right, firm 523, shoot leak, watch this. I mean, he could be doing that, but it didn't look like he was off cuff, coaching the quarterbacks during that time when he can talk to them.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. It's thanks for the super chat, UT Tyler guy. We appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we did talk a lot about the possible impact, but ultimately, I'm with you, CJ. I don't know if we can ever quantify the impact of it, but I'm not sure how much it helped. Not sure we saw Quinn perform more consistently and better this year than we did last year. Yeah. All right. How about Shivam's question here? Happy Monday, guys. He says, how are you feeling about the running back room? There's some question marks for the season. Well, at least you have Trey Wisner. Trey Wisner seems to be, for me personally, why I'm not stressed out. And maybe that's foolhardy of me. Maybe I should be stressed out because, something could happen to Trey Wisner. But I feel like, yes, there are some question marks about running back, especially coming off the injury-riddled season last year. But because you have a guy like Trey Wisner who was able to get to 1,000 yards and who was able to be a consistent presence for you in the backfield, I don't think I'm knocking on wood, I don't think you'll be here with the rash of injuries like you were last year at running back. I could be off about that. If you are, then that's another issue that needs addressing. I don't think you'll have injuries like that. So I think you'll have more talent in the backfield. But as long as Trey Wisner is there to give you a starting point, I think you're okay.
Yeah, and I think going into 2025, the volume of bodies that you have in that room should, again, be able to withstand an injury. Hopefully not 2. Hopefully not 3 like you saw last year. But point being, you're back to 6 true scholarship guys on the roster for the spring. Obviously, no C.J. Baxter, Christian Clark, still a bit limited, right? But you're going to have plenty of opportunities to replace guys should you see injuries at the spot. Again, I'm with you, Rod, but again, I do think that this room is going to be in good shape. If Trey Wisner is your absolute floor, right, you're in a great spot. And we know exactly what type of running back Trey Wisner is. 1,000-yard guy coming in a year where he was not expected to be a big volume guy at all. So if C.J. Baxter comes back, gives you anything, you've got a really solid room right now. Also, James Simon, while we're on the topic of running backs, had a really, really solid scrimmage or live portion of practice on Thursday night.
All right. Thank you for the question, Shivan. We appreciate it. How about this one from Arrow Kids 27? In regards to our conversation earlier about the house settlement, NIL, of course, being separate from that, wants to know, does this mean big money donors will redirect their money to pay players directly rather than adding to a collective? This way they can be sure their money goes where they want it to. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is the case that the Texas One Fund does allow you to direct your donations to specific sports, if I'm not mistaken, or like whatever you want to in terms of that, like the Texas One Fund, which I said I don't even know the future of that either. But I think that there is a way for you to support the sport you want to support in that way.
I think you're right. And I think that's going to continue to be the case regardless of what changes. And, for guys who want to make sure that their money does make a difference, this is the best way to ensure that by saying, hey, I want this to go to a pass rush. I like what we're doing with the pass rush. I like the pass defense. If I could get a guy or at least retain a guy that's got 10 sacks next year, I'm going to make sure that my money goes there. So it's the best way to ensure that there's always a difference being made in those situations.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that one. Cameron Miller with a question here. Do you think they're starting Michael Terry at wide receiver like Sark and staff did with Savion Red because it's the best option to learn the offense from, and then he'll practice with running backs in the future so he can play all the positions? Yeah, that's a good question. What are your thoughts, guys? I mean, is the Michael Terry experiment just starting at wide receiver, or is just Michael Terry's going to be a wide receiver until he masters wide receiver? And then we'll see, Coach. How would you handle it, Coach? You had a Michael Terry, you're Sark. What do you do?
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer at this point with the lack of experienced returning starters. I think you put him out there at receiver and see what he can do. And then when the dust kind of settles at the receiver position, at the running back position, then you look back and what you have at receiver. But if you need a little more depth at running back, then you can cross-train him or you can even move him. But I think the attention needs to be 100% at receiver this spring. So they need the help. They need the depth. Let's see what he can do. I'm not saying he can't sit in with running backs time occasionally in their time, but I think for the most part, I would train him total receiver because I think we have some depth at the running back room, although – not a lot of big proven guys, but you certainly don't have that at wide receiver. So, my coaching thought would be get him all you can get him at receiver while you have the opportunity to get him reps at receiver. Because in the fall, when those guys come back, you're not going to have the time to get him the rep at receivers because you're not going to take reps away from those guys.
Yeah. And also, I mean, he's only about 215. So where does his body fit the most right now, given the position? Got to wait till he gets some meat on his bones, talking tight end wise, before you move him to the interior and say, hey, Ethan Burke's right there, go chip him. I don't think anybody wants to do that 215.
Seriously. Thank you, Cameron, for the question. How about this one from Texas Boy Wonder? He says, in regards to our earlier conversation about Quinn Ewers, do y'all think that injury against Bama messed with his mechanics? I mean, he could have been, the injury from earlier this past season, the injury against Bama. You're talking about that was a shoulder injury, correct?
Yeah,
that was a shoulder injury there. I said he had a lot of injuries when he was at Texas that I'm sure affected his performance. In regards to the deep ball, which is what we were talking about, and that's just a natural, I won't say weakness, but that is not a strength of Quinn's game. Even at the pro day, he struggled to throw the deep ball against air. I just don't think he does that really well. And doesn't mean he won't hit on some of those, but I don't think that's a consistent strength you can rely on. And I think that proved to be true the 3 years he was a starter at Texas. So I maybe the mechanics, did suffer from the injuries and those things, but I think that even going back, I bet if you went back and tracked it, even at high school film, he wasn't consistently a great deep ball passer. I didn't see it.
Yeah, and I don't know if mechanics were ever like the true selling point of his game, right? It was always the off-platform arm strength. It was being able to get the ball out regardless of feet, regardless of pressure in the pocket, whether or not he was stationary or on the run. So I've always kind of pushed away the mechanic talk with Quinn because, look, he's a good quarterback. Sometimes good quarterbacks just do things their own way. Now, when things got a little dicey and a little hairy down the field, maybe, you probably should have cleaned up the feet a little bit. Maybe put something more into the twisting and rotation of your form, whatnot. But I never really bought into all the struggles that we saw during his time in Austin because of a lack of mechanics or tendencies there. More so just coming, the territory of playing quarterback, not an easy position to do. So all in all, for Quinn, the biggest injury that I thought affected him was the one that he suffered against UTSA, or was it?
Yeah.
That was the one where I went back through it today, Rod. Texas was 11 for 11 to begin the year in the red zone.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah.
It was a night and day difference.
Yeah.
We're like, they figured it out.
And a lot of it was Quinn. They
Yeah.
were passing in the red
During
zone.
the no look, I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that it fell off the way that it did, but I couldn't help but think that whatever the oblique injury was, however much it lingered, there wasn't a true 100% healthy Quinn by mid-season. End of the year, we never saw it again.
Yeah. And Quinn, I think, had a tendency when he wasn't feeling 100% play to be in his own head a little bit too. We'll see.
No, that's real. Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see where the offense, where the offense looks like under Arch. Obviously, that's kind of where the conversation started. Thank you, Texas Boy Wonder. We appreciate it. All right, let's hit the NFL over-unders really quick. NFL draft over-unders really quickly. I saw these, and shout out to, I believe it's the Draft Network is where I originally saw these, and it was Jamie Eisner, I believe is his name. And he posted these. These are from DraftKings and Bet365. So they're just looking at potential draft positions of certain players. So for the 3 Longhorns, Matthew Golden is at 17.5. We got Matthew Golden. There you go, Coach. We're doing NFL draft position over-unders. This website through DraftKings and Bet365, they have Matthew Golden's over-under draft position at 17.5. So he's drafting 17th around there. Jahdae Barron's at 18.5, and so is Kelvin Banks. They're both at 18.5. I mean, essentially, they're basically saying the Longhorns could be, or at least are slotted to be drafted very close together. The 3 Longhorns who are projected to be first-round guys. And if no team decides to trade out of those positions, those spots are you got Cincinnati at 17, Seattle at 18, Tampa Bay at 19. Those are kind of the teams that are around that area. So if you guys had to take Matthew Golden being drafted higher or lower than 17.5, where are you going?
Coach, you want it?
Before. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Matthew? I'm sorry, what about you, CJ?
I think Matthew Golden ends up in the 20s.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a late infatuation with a Ted McMillan at that size and a Luther Burden with his production. Now, the speed, again, that's going to be something that he can hang his hat on and say, no one is better in this draft than me. And then that's when I kind of come back in and say, but when did we ever see that true speed on display in 24? And it wasn't often, at least not 4.29 fast. We saw it with Xavier Worthy, so.
He did. Yeah, Xavier already looked that fast on film. The thing about Matthew Golden is people say he doesn't look as fast as a 4.29, which to me, it's a knock on him right now that he doesn't run routes that fast. And I think what Sark said is basically, I don't know if Sark was just trying to trying to oppose or be contrary to that right now, whatever is that analysis of Matthew Golden, that he doesn't play as fast as 4.29, but he did say it just took him a while in the offense. Said he missed spring, I believe, and he said it just kind of took him a while to find his role in the offense. And then once he did, then he caught fire, which does make sense because the second half of the season is when he really caught fire and increased his draft stock more than anybody. And that's also, by the way, that's another criticism of him right now, is that he's only a 6-game wonder.
Yeah.
He's a 6-7 game wonder, that he didn't play like that the entire season. That basically he played like a first round projected wide receiver in the second half of the season. I'm not saying I agree with these. I listened to all of the draft analysis. There you go.
And it's interesting, Coach. Me, you have something on this, but Matthew Golden wasn't really ever looked at inside the own Texas offense as the number one guy until really you just didn't have Isaiah Bond on the field. Again, I rewatched the Georgia game at DKR earlier today, and Texas was struggling. But then you see like some of those, end zone views, you see it from the butt angle, and you say, oh, wait, Matthew Golden actually created a lot of separation here. It was just that the play or Quinn's predetermined read was to go to who we all thought at the time was the predetermined number one wide receiver on the team, which probably took away a couple of receptions, a couple of yards, a couple of targets. But that's, it wasn't until it was out of pure necessity that Texas said, oh, that's the number one guy we have to rely on. And that was much later in the year, Rod.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to see the scouts, and surely, they do this, but the best part of Matthew Golden's game, it's not 4.29.
Right.
It's all the other intangibles that he brings: his route running, his elusiveness, his ability to excel out of a cut, and all those things that make him a great receiver. And on top of that, you have the 4.29 speed. And I wonder, if you'd have played with an Arch Manning, if that 4.29 speed would have been more evident. I don't know, but I just know from the people that I've talked to, and my son Jackson Shipley being one of those guys who's watched Matthew Golden on numerous occasions in practice, who claimed him before he ever saw him play a game, that he's the best receiver on the team. And I'm like, there's no way. Have you seen what Cyrus Bolden has done? I mean, there's no way. And he said, Dad, I'm just telling you, man, the guy is a perfectionist in what he does. He is a great technician. And so if the scouts will dig deep into that, along with the 4.29 speed, along with the NFL quarterback, they can get him the deep ball and allow him to utilize that 4.29 speed. That's why I say he may go a little bit higher than 17, especially when some people have him the number one receiver off the board.
Yep. It all depends on, the view you have of him, right? The perspective you have, because some people say, oh, he doesn't run routes at a 4.29 speed, so they don't value the 4.29. I say, well, maybe somebody can teach him to maximize that speed, and integrate that with his route running more. That's NFL development. And those who say, oh, he's just a 6 or 7 game wonder, he didn't put that type of productivity together throughout the stretch of an entire season, never in his entire career, which may be true. And I would look at it and say, yeah, because he finally got a chance to be a part of a pro-style offense, which is Sark's offense, pro-style pass game, with an NFL quarterback in Quinn Ewers. And imagine if you get more exposure to that, how good he's going to be. So I just think it depends on the perspective. But I'm with Coach. I think he actually may go before that, because receivers is one of those positions where, man, there's a run on receivers a lot. But this is a draft where it's not considered a really deep position at receiver. It's Travis Hunter, Ted McMillan, and Matthew Golden are considered the kind of 3 top guys there. All right. Also, Janae Barron, 18.5. And so is Kelvin Banks. They're basically saying they're be drafted around the same place. Do we think I think Kelvin Banks may go before that.
I do too.
I think Kelvin Banks goes before that.
If you can get a franchise tackle who's kind of withstood all the tests that he had in Austin for 3 straight years, I think it's a hard, thing to look at and say, yeah, you know what? He's not that great, right? The film backs it up, and it did from day one. He was a 5-star guy coming in, lived up to all the expectations, won the Outland, right? That hasn't been discussed a whole lot in this draft process. So, I do think that someone finds him in the teens. And, Rod, maybe the Texans trade up and grab him before 20.
It's not bad. They need one. That's not bad. No, San Fran. I've seen him mock the San Fran, who really likes him too. And Janae Barron. Janae Barron's been mocked all over the place. I could see Janae Barron going before 18.5, but I could see him easily dropping to the early 20s in this draft. So I'll say Janae is after 18.5. I will say that. I'll say Yeah.
I would say the opposite.
I do too.
Think he goes before that too?
I think he'll go before that, and I think some of the negative stuff that came out on Banks is, then they start talking about guard. Well, is he really a tackle? No, he's probably a guard. And I just think when I hear that stuff, it makes me wonder if there's some of those people out there that more of them trying to find a reason not to draft a guy instead of a reason to draft a guy. There's more reasons to draft Jahdae Barron probably than there is Kelvin Banks, because there has been some question and his draft stock unexplainably fell. There was no doubt, it seemed like, as the season was going on, he was going to be the number one Longhorn taken off the board. And, I just don't know how much I love the people that draft their needs and not what all the experts say about it. They just say, hey, here's a guy, he's very talented, started 4 years for a great team, understands pro style offense. Let's take him. I just don't know how many teams have the intestinal fortitude to say, yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Banks going down, but man, this guy's a franchise tackle and we're going to take him. I think people will see Jahdae Barron as being more of a franchise DB before they will Kelvin, an offensive lineman. Although I don't agree with that, I just have a feeling that may be the way it goes.
Yeah. Coach, for Banks, scouts, execs, people in the media, they play games when it comes to the draft, especially teams that draft maybe in that 22 to 32 range. I think with Banks, there's a little bit of a little rumor starting, hoping you're at least originating from a team or a group of guys that draft way back in the draft thinking, we say he's a guard, maybe that gets out, folks second guess, and hey, he'll fall right on down to us wherever we pick. That's not in the teens or
they're bluffing.
10.
They're bluffing. They're trying to call you.
A lot of smoke in the draft pre-draft era.
No, you're right about that. That's no question. But yeah, I mean, all the Longhorns, at least the ones projected to go in the first round, have a chance to be the top player drafted at their position, which is really, really impressive. Something else really impressive, our friends over at Vaughn Lane. Yeah, you've tried flying, you tried driving to all the major Texas cities, Austin, Houston, DFW, San Antonio. Well, now it's time to upgrade to Vaughn Lane, the smarter way to travel between major Texas cities. Let's face it, flying is a hassle, security lines, packed gates. You got delayed flights. You got the ridiculous prices of everything in an airport, all for an hour flight that is not worth the stress levels. Driving isn't much better. If you ever tried that same day round trip between Dallas and Austin, or Houston and Austin, or Houston and San Antonio, DFW and Austin, it can be hours of lost productivity, emails piling up, calls going unanswered, and work left undone, all while trying to focus on the road, getting in traffic jams. Why waste the day when you can stay connected and productive with Vaughn Lane? Vaughn Lane changes everything. It's luxury regional bus travel, what some call a private jet on wheels. You'll sink into a plush leather seat with a leg rest, stay connected with complimentary Wi-Fi, enjoy complimentary snacks and drinks on every trip, plus delicious meals on select departures. If you need to freshen up, you can even indulge in hot towel service, including eye masks and pillows and blankets, all to keep you cozy. The Vaughn Lane team takes care of every detail so you can sit back, relax, unwind, and enjoy the most comfortable travel experience on the road today. And if you are planning a bachelor party, bachelorette party, guys trip, gals trip, football game, concert, or special event, you can charter your own coach from Vaughn Lane for the ultimate group experience. Vaughn Lane is first-class travel without the hassle. See for yourself. Visit vaughnlane.com. That's VONLANE.com and use the promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip with Vaughn Lane. Thank you very much to Vaughn Lane for sponsoring the winning drive and being a part of the On Texas football family. All right, guys, before we get out of here, I want to talk about the Pro Football Focus safety rankings. They're ranking the best players, the top 10 best players at each position heading into the 2025 season. And I believe the last position they've done is the safeties. Remember, Texas had the number one edge defender coming back based on Pro Football Focus rankings. Number one edge defender returning in Colin Simmons. Number one linebacker returning in Anthony Hill. Number 6 cornerback, I believe, in Malik Muhammad returning. And they have Michael Taft at number 4 That must be fourth best safety returning in the 20. Thank you very much, Matthew. Appreciate that. In the 2025 for the 2025 season, Caleb Downs, who the Longhorns will see in week 1. He is at the best safety in the country. Just to give you real quick little perspective on it, they have Coy Parrish of Minnesota at number 2. You won't know most of these guys. Dylan Thieneman of Oregon is at number 4 ahead of number 3 ahead of Michael Taft at number 4. And then KJ Bolden of Georgia is at number 5. You see right there, Bray Hubbard right there at Alabama is at number 6. Terry Moore of Duke is at number 7. Rod Moore, 2 more back to back of Michigan at number 8. And the SMU safety, Nwokobia is at number 9, and number 10 is Bud Clark. Man, Bud Clark is still at TCU. Damn, he's been there a long time.
Yeah.
He's been there a long time. Bud Clark is the 10th best safety based on the Pro Football Focus rankings. What are you guys' thoughts? Michael Taft, too high, too low? Where is he in your thoughts as the ranking as one of the best safeties in the country?
You won't hear any disagreements from me about Caleb Downs being at number 1. I don't think Texas fans should would have any argument with that either after the Cotton Bowl. But for Taft, look, second team All-American coming back. You're going to be a guy with a Keenan now, but maybe you can unlock something new. I don't know what that level might be, but he's certainly going to be a guy that is on these lists. I think it's fair. Again, Taft has been tremendous, and he's got a lot of versatility. I think gets overlooked, right? Texas used him in the box. They used him down in the slot. And of course, playing center field, he has plenty of numbers and production back there as well. So I think that's fair. Number 4 is pretty darn good for a former walk-on, right?
It's amazing. I mean, I still think right now he's probably the greatest walk-on story, true walk-on story in Texas football history. And with the way the house settlement's going and the landscape of college football changing, Coach, I don't know if we're going to have that many other walk-on stories anyway. So he might go down as the GOAT walk-on at Texas when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one interesting thing is, I think, because of the scholarship numbers potentially going up, there's more lower level colleges that are trying to boost their NIL game to get some of those guys. I know even at Abilene Christian, they're making a run to try to raise some NIL.
Oh, good idea.
They haven't really had before. Because they know there's going to be some guys that are going to be left out, that might turn down a scholarship to Abilene Christian or to a Sam Houston or Stephen F. Austin or something like that to go walk on at Texas with a chance of being a Michael Taft. But if there's not a spot, then you try to, throw those guys a bone or something to try to get them in. Knowing that, if they are what you think they are and they develop, it's going to be a 1 or 2 year deal. You're going to be a farm league. That's the sad thing about it, is that if they get to the point where they can really, earn some NIL money, they're going to go where they can earn that money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's actually, I think it was a coach at Grambling, the Grambling State, that actually said he thinks they should have to pay like a transfer fee.
Yeah.
Coach?
They pay him. I saw that.
Yeah. His name,
like a buyout. It's a
buyout. Yes.
I think that's a pretty good idea, really. I mean, really do. I think that's a good idea.
It sounds good in theory until you go to a lower level school and they're all just shopping their players. They're like, hey, come get my guys.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Like, you're supposed to be retaining these guys. Fight for them.
Anyway. They're losing them anyway. Yeah, they're going. And all he's saying is, his name is, real quick, Mickey Joseph, I believe, Grambling's Mickey Joseph. He just said that, basically, paraphrasing, like, they should have to pay a buyout, like Coach said, a little transfer fee. But CJ's right. At one point, it would get corrupted like everything else. And be shopping.
Well, at least get your money, recoup your money you put into a guy.
Yes, that's basically what he's saying.
At least recoup the money that you can verify that you gave the guy.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. All right, let's thank our final sponsor of the evening, our friends over at South Point Dodge. Hey, Texas football fans, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, folks. 600 vehicles in stock, including an all-new 2025 Jeep Wrangler. Get the real deal today and drive away in the Jeep Wrangler, a vehicle built for adventure, folks. Plus, how about this from our friends over at South Point Dodge? You can get employee incentive prices. That's right, folks. You pay what the employees pay there at South Point Dodge. Now, that is a real deal. Nobody giving you a deal that good like my friends over at South Point Dodge. They're going to give you the employee discount. They don't call it that. I'm calling it that. But it's basically what they give you. So right now, great time for you to head on over to South Point Dodge. You can score big today at South Point Dodge. Go see them off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go to southpointdodge.com. Get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge with employee incentive prices. You need that these days. So thanks to our friends at South Point Dodge for offering the great deals, and thanks for being a part of the Owen Texas football family and sponsoring the winning drive. Thank you guys for out there for watching and for listening. Thanks for all the super chats. Thank you for all the participation, the questions, comments. If we failed to get to any of your questions or comments, please direct them to the guys tomorrow at Coffee and Football. They'll be starting bright and early. Jerry and Bobby at 8:15 a.m. We'll also have a Tuesday night live stream with myself, E. Hogan. I believe CJ Vogel might be on that one as well. But in the meantime, thank you, Coach. We appreciate all the wisdom and the knowledge. Thank you, CJ, for all of your hard work. Thank you guys out there for joining us. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Matthew is always the real MVP. And thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to South Point, southpointdodge.com. Thank you to our friends over at Von Lane, vonlane.com as well. Remember, OTF25 gets you $20 off your first trip with vonlane.com. Flat Creek, flatcreekestate.com. Really appreciate our friends over at Flat Creek, always hooking us up, and Hardgrove Roofing, hardgroveroofing.com. And thank you very much to Stevie Lee as well for giving us his time. For Stevie and for Coach and for CJ and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.